Okay, so let's get at building our own package now. So they always say one of the most challenging things in software development is naming things. I always feel like I want to make the best name possible so that everything's super clear. So all these reusable code, I just kind of always call them my bag of tricks. I may rename this at some point, but that's what I'm naming this right now, is my PHP_bag of tricks. I have this directory. It's somewhere on my desktop in my code directory, and it's totally empty. I don't have a Git repository or anything else. We're just starting from scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a README file. We saw that the other one had this, and we're just going to create this because, first of all, I want to drop in a checklist of what I've kind of compiled that I think that we're going to need. So this is the to-do list essentially, and we're going to run this from top to bottom. When we get down to the bottom, we should be complete with our package and everything should be working. So the very first thing is we're going to initialize a Git repo right here. I got a terminal window open down at the bottom, and I am in, again, that same directory that's on my desktop. I'm going to initialize a Git repo right here, and I'm going to also set up the Git remote. Okay, so we're going to create a repository. I'm just going to put this in my GitHub repo. I'm going to create a new repository for this, and we're going to call this the PHP bag of tricks. I'm not going to do a description. I'm going to make this public in case anybody wants to use any of the code that's in here. That's fine. I'm not going to add a README. I'm not going to add any of this. Just keep this all kind of totally empty. Create this repo. All right, so it gives me some instructions here. I've done most of this already. But let's go ahead and just finish this up. Back in our code base, if I do the git status right now, I should have some things here. I can see I have the IDE. So I'm using JetBrains. It adds this directory in here. I don't want that in my repo. So it's a good time to introduce a git ignore file. And for sure, I want to ignore the IDE. I think I'm going to do that. Good. All right, so I have these two now. So because I want a Mac, I know that at some point I'm going to end up with these ds_store. I think that's how you spell it. Let me just double check. Yeah, so it's like that. And I want to ignore those two when they start to show up. And just thinking ahead here a little bit, I'm going to have a directory at some point. It's going to be vendors. There's going to be a vendor directory. And I want to ignore that directory. So what this is my package will have dependencies of itself, just like Laravel did. And I do not want that vendor package in there. So I'm going to switch back over to here. Let's just see how this is handled in the Laravel world. They don't want to check that in. So the git ignore. So these are all probably pretty good. So let me see. How about I do this? I'm going to copy all these. I'm going to put them in right here, and let's just remove the ones that we don't need. So we're already on the right track there. If I have any unit tests, node modules, I won't have these or these. These are all Laravel things. Vendor directory.env, if I have them, I probably won't, but let's just keep them here. Probably keep those in. These and get rid of auth, probably. Probably won't have these, but no harm in there. And then you can see those. So I can get rid of this thing at the very top. I like to just keep everything a little structured. So I got all the files at the top and all the directories at the bottom. So I think that's probably a good starting point here for the git ignore. So when I git status, I see these two directories. I put a vendor directory in there just in preparation for what it might look like in the future. And I also know that we'll probably have a source directory. I think this is probably at a good enough spot where let's just do our initial check in here. So see what the status is. We'll add all of these. So one thing this Git's doing is it calls its main branch main. I like to rename that to master. So now it's called master. And then the last thing is I will add, I'm going to copy this remote from the GitHub. And then I should be able to do my initial push. And so now that should be up there. So if I pull over my GitHub repo and I refresh this, I should now see at least my initial code directory. So that's looking fine for me. Okay, so we can check this one off. So that part's been completed. Let's see here. Space these out a little bit. I always feel it's more readable then. All right, so we've got that first part done. Create and configure the composer.json file using composer init. So the very next thing we're going to do is all of our examples had a composer.json file. So we can get that either by copying and pasting, or I have Composer installed. So if you don't have Composer installed, you need to go to Git Composer and install it. But if you do, you can take composer init, and then it's going to take you through kind of creating an initial composer.json file. So I ran composer init. So it's welcome to Composer config generator. I'll guide you through. The package name. It's getting this from my GitHub repo. So that's the arcraven/bag of tricks. I think that's fine for the package name. I'm just going to keep it that way. The description. So we'll call this a package of reusable classes, helpers, and other PHP code. All right, so that's good enough. Author, that's fine. Minimum stability, I'm just not going to enter anything here. What type is this? This is going to be a library. That's what we're creating here. The license, what are my options? It doesn't really give me any options here. I think I'm going to, so it doesn't really tell me what the options are, but I'm going to enter MIT and hopefully that'll get us through. Would you like to define your dependencies require interactively? I'm just going to say no. Would you like to define your dev dependencies interactively? No. Add a PS4 auto loading. So we're going to need this eventually. So let's see what it's trying to do here. So it's going to create this namespace for us. I'm not sure if I necessarily like my name now, but we'll keep it. And so we'll go ahead and just hit enter. I think it'll take that. And we're going to confirm this. I should now have a composer.json file. Okay, so I have a name. That's that. Library, MIT, PSR. So I don't really like this namespace. It's going to go under source, but I think I have the freedom to just change this right now. And maybe I'll just change it like this. So Cravens, and then PHP bag of tricks, and then we'll go from there. Do I like that? Kind of unsure. Maybe I just go PHP. It's the bag of tricks package, and the namespace will be that. I'm okay with that. I think that's probably a better choice. Okay, so I think we're good here with the initial version of Composer. Let's go back to our list here. So we've done this, and I'm going to go ahead and save, and let's go ahead and just do a commit. So we'll review, we got a new Composer file, we'll add that in, modified the README, that's fine. I'll push that up. So we kind of did this previously in the video where we reviewed some existing packages. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this as complete. We reviewed Carbon PHP, and from there we kind of learned this directory structure, which is we have a source directory. We already have that in place. We have a vendor directory. We have that. We have composer.json. That's there. We don't have a license yet. Is there like a standard, probably MIT license? Let's see. All right, so it looks like there is a standard license for MIT. I just got it from Wikipedia. I think that's probably okay. We'll put that in here, copyright year. So it looks like I have to put the year. Okay, permission, free of charge. I'm not going to review this. I think it's boilerplate here, besides the initial things that I just did. All right, so we got a license file. We got the readme.md. So these two are also completed. We'll add the license. And we reviewed the directory structure. So the next thing on our list is we want to configure auto loading. And we already have, if you look at the composer, here's the auto load feature. It's kind of already configured for us. So what composer is going to do is at some point we're going to use in our PHP files a class that has a namespace craven/php/ whatever it is. Composer, because we have this auto loaded configured, it knows that anything that has this prefix for the namespace you're going to find it in this library, and it's going to be in this directory. So I think we're all set with the PSR4 auto loading here feature. And so again, we're going to get this checked off. We kind of did this already, so we're just going to leave it like that. And now I don't think there's anything that I need to check in. Oh, I changed the README file, so we'll go ahead and add this. I guess we checked off auto loading. So now it's time to start adding code and adding tests. All right, so then what we're going to do is we're going to grab one of the utilities. And I want to go ahead and put this utility into this package. And then we're going to register this package with Packagist and make sure that we can use this package in our projects. So that's what we're going to do next. And so what I'm going to grab is I'm going to grab this CSV helper. It's a class I use to kind of parse out strings. So maybe I have comma separated data or tab separated or whatever the delimiter is, and then I can parse that thing out. So I'm going to grab this from my TechCast project, and it's in a utilities directory. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. We're going to create a utilities directory, and then we're going to paste that file in here. So it's CSV helper. It doesn't have a target namespace yet. Maybe that's because PHP Storm, because we didn't have a composer file when we loaded, it may not know what the default namespace is. So we're just going to go ahead and say this is okay for now. All right, if we go back and look, here is the TechCast. I just want to see. So the namespace in here is app/code/utilities. And if we look at the composer file and the auto load, app is under the app/, so that's what that is, app/ right here. And then the rest of it is just following the directories, which is what PSR4 does. So code, utilities, so app. So we're going to come back over to our project here. Our composer file says this is cravens/php. Like that or the other way. So like that, PHP, and I think we should be good to go, but obviously I've got a bunch of issues here. And I can tell you right away, so this is because you can see it's only since PHP 8.0. Luckily, we saw this before. For example, I look at TechCast and we look at the composer.json file. One of the things I can require right away is a certain version of PHP. So let's go ahead and grab this require statement, and we're going to drop this into our composer as our first require. And that should now silence a lot of these. All right, so this is coming because my PHP Storm is configured for 5.6. So I got it configured for 8.2 now. The composer directory says 8.2 and above. And all of the red flags are now gone. All right, so this is a nice and simple class. Now it's under craven/php/utilities/CSV helper. That's in our package here.